Thank you. Hi everyone. My name is Sergei Alekseenko, and you can find me on the GitHub, and you can try contact me on the Telegram or on my email. Actually I'm Russian. I'm from Siberia, from Tomsk, and minus 38 degree was in this winter, and I put here some photograph. It's Tomsk. But I've been working for a year as a backend developer at service.com. This company based on Cyprus, really sunny island, and we are doing some bare metal hosting automation in Ruby. So today I'm going to talk about Mruby, and the first question, what is Mruby? And does anyone hear something about Mruby? Raise your hand. Oh, it's cool, really cool. So what is Mruby? The lightweight implementation of the Ruby language, compliant with a part of ISO standard. And the main feature is that you can embed Mruby code to your application. Current version is 2nd right now, but when I have met with Mruby, it was 1.4 version. Okay, how we can build Mruby? Well, the first thing, we can clone from the GitHub Mruby, from the Mruby repository, and if we do this, we will see interesting configuration file called build_config.rb. This file provides a lot of configuration options, but the main, you have to choose toolchain, for example, GCC, compilator. Also you can set other configuration options. After that, you can compile your Mruby using minirake script. And after that, you will see that your Mruby is built in a build/host directory. In that directory, you have a bin directory with a few binaries. The first is Mruby. It's just a Ruby, it's just an interpreter program. The second is MIRB, it's interactive shell, like IRB in the MRI. And also there is compiler, MRBC binaries. Okay. Mruby also provides external libraries called gems or Mruby gems. There is MRB gems package manager for that, and if you want to add some gems to your Mruby build, you have to put it in your configuration file. There is mgem list repository. If you found your gems in this repository, you just can put mgem option. If not, but gem has GitHub repository, you can use GitHub key for that. Also, you can extract your gems to a specific file called gembox, and then you can just include your gembox directly to your configuration file, like that. Just call gembox. Okay, let's try to write some Ruby code. This code looks like pure Ruby code, and we can execute it using Mruby interpreter binaries, and we will see, hi everyone, it's okay. Also, we can try to compile that script using MRBC. Just put our file name here, and we can put -b flag with our output file MRB extension, and we will see the same result. But the most interesting example when we can put our script and execute it from the C program. It's really a small example. It's a C program, and you can add some headers at the beginning of file, and then we have to define pointer to mrb_state structure. Then we can handle some errors, and if it's okay, we can open our file with our script and just call mrb_load_file function, and our code will be executed. Okay, after that we can compile our C program using GCC, for example. We have to link it with Mruby libraries. And for example, our output file will be mruby_c, and if we execute it, we will see the same result. Okay, now I've just updated my hello method. I have added 3 times iterations, so I have changed my code, but I didn't compile C application. I just changed Mruby code. And if we execute our binaries again, we will see that result is changed too. So, if we compare Ruby with MRI, we will see that Mruby has some limitation, unfortunately. And the first critical limitation is method visibility. For example, if we put some method under private keyword and then we execute it, well, we will see that we can execute private method without problems. The second interesting limitation is require. For example, here we have 2 classes, 2 files, and we can require class A from class B and then just run calc method. And okay, if we run it in the Ruby, we will see the result 105. If we try to run it with Mruby, we will see undefined method error, undefined method require. So it's not so good. And the next problem is lexicographical ordering. You can see the picture, and you can see 2 files with numbers prefix at the beginning of file name for valid ordering. But also there is an interesting pull request from Vladimir Dementiev. It's still open, but this pull request adding special magic comment require, and after that you can you can require your other Ruby files, Mruby files, actually. Next limitations, regular expression. Mruby core doesn't include regular expressions, and if you need it, you can use gems. For example, Mruby regexp, PCRE, it's pro-compatible regular expressions, or other library based on IGMO, or other library if you want. Also, other limitations, thread and processes, external gems too, and there are a lot of other limitations, and you can check it in official documentation in the Mruby repository. Okay, let's see some examples and projects related to Mruby. The first is Mruby-CLI. It is a platform to build native command line application for any operation system like Linux, Windows, or OS X. And it provides a tool necessary for building a standalone binary of your application from any machine. There is also interesting speech about Mruby CLI on RubyConf 2016. So you can follow the YouTube link or just Google it. Next example is Mitamai project. Well, there is Itamai, configuration management system inspired by Chief, and Mitamai, it's implementation that allow you write scripts and configuration scenarios without Ruby. So because it also provides Mruby by itself. Next project called Trusted, and it is a very performance HTTP2 web server powered by Ng-HTTP2 and Mruby HTTP2, and you can get HTTP2 web server very fast with that. And okay, also if you are a Go developer, you can try to execute Mruby in your application because there is a Go Mruby binding. This extension allows you to execute Mruby code from your Golang application, or from the other side you can also run Go code from the Ruby code. And if you're interested, there is an example also from Vladimir Dementiev at his project Anycable Go. I think a lot of people knows about that Anycable repository, so you can find it. Next example provided by Shopify company. It's called Ruby-Engine. And what is this? It is a sandbox scripting engine. So Shopify created it wraps Mruby into external gem, and you can include this solution to your Rails application. Just call bundle install, then compile it using rake. And well, let's see some example. Again, we have a small class with small method, and here we have to put our result into instance variable with add at the beginning of the variable name, and then we can try to execute our Mruby code from our Ruby code. To do that, we have to require Mruby engine. Then we need to define some quotas, and finally we can create Mruby engine instance. Then we can put our Mruby script to special as an argument to sandbox eval method. And after our code will be executed and we can see the result, we can extract our result from the result instance variable. It's really cool. Also, Mruby has an interesting tutorial about WebAssembly, and there is interesting solution called Mruby-WSM. I mean, it's WebAssembly project. And also we have a great Japanese community who can doing a lot of stuff with Mruby, and they have a lot of interesting things for embedded and for microcontrollers, like Mruby are doing OpenWRT Mruby for the OpenWRT operation system. And also there is interesting implementation of Mruby called Mruby-C. This implementation has incredible small size, less than 40 kilobytes maybe, and special for microcontrollers. Okay, what about my experience with Mruby? I have met with Mruby when I was working at TeachBase company as a CTO, and we had interesting example. You can see the picture. From the left side, we had a lot of customers with custom domains or second level, example.com, some domain.com, a lot of custom domains, and our customers can register automatically in our system. So we have to provide automatically SSL certificates and other stuff. But if you know, Nginx can, well, you can put only one SSL certificate for your Nginx server virtual host configuration, and it could be a problem when you need to issue certificates dynamically. So I found some variants The first was try to set up Nginx virtual host for each customer's account, but it looks hard to do that automatically. I mean, we have to do a lot of configuration management automatically, maybe using Chief or Ansible, a lot of scripting. The second solution was try to compile Nginx with Lua language, and there is a project called OpenResty. Well, it looks good, but at the same time I found an interesting extension that allows to embed Mruby to your Nginx. It's called Nginx_Mruby. And what is this? It's a fast, memory-efficient TCP and UDP load balancer solution. And it is a web server extension mechanism using scripting language Mruby for the Nginx. So, and how it works? When we are talking about Nginx, Nginx has a lot of phases. So each HTTP request passes through a sequence of phases, like Nginx HTTP post read phases, server rewrite phase, post rewrite phase, content phase, a lot of phases. It is internal Nginx API, and Nginx Mruby extension use that directive, and it uses Nginx phases and provides a lot of directives. Directives will hook your Mruby code on each Nginx phase. For example, Mruby init and Mruby init worker or other. We will see in the next slides. Well, for example, there is a directive called Mruby content handler, and if you see the code suffix, it means you can put your Ruby code in line in your Nginx configuration and just execute it. So the directives called Mruby content handler code. Without code suffix, we can use file name with our scripts. Like in this example, we have a response hash instance. We can serialize it to the JSON and then put to special Nginx Mruby class, and we can call our script from the Mruby content handlers directive, and we will see that it will hook our script and will provide our custom response from our Mruby script. By default, if you just use your script will be executed every time for each request. But there is a special keyword, cache, so we can cache our script. It will be executed only once. For example, we can put some Redis connection to our script and then compile it, start our Nginx, and try to request something. But before we have to put some information to our Redis. After that, we can use curl to get some information. Okay, we get some response. Then we just change our information in the Redis. Then call again without any compilation or Nginx reloading, and of course we will see other result, but our code was executed only once, and it was cached. Okay, it's useful to write some code when your Nginx is starting, and there are two directives. The first is Mruby init, when your Nginx is starting, and the second is Mruby init worker, which will execute it per each Nginx worker. The next is SSL handshake directive. This is very useful if you need to to change your certificates dynamically, like in my case. You have to put this directive in your server context and just path to your script. Okay, after introduction to Nginx and Mruby, you can see on my architecture. So again, from the left side, we have a lot of clients with domains, with custom domains. Clients doing some requests to our front-end server with Nginx and Mruby, and also we have Let's Encrypt client to issue some SSL certificates dynamically, and all these things works together. So Let's Encrypt client issues certificates and stores into Redis, and Nginx with Mruby works with Redis too. And if it's okay, next request will be proxied to the Rails application, like in simple Nginx. To do that, we also have to use user data gem. It's a Mruby gem, and you can define special user data instance, and that instance will be shared between your different Mruby codes. For example, here I have put a lot of I have put a Redis connection to user data instance, and it was init.rb file, and also we have other file ssl.rb with business logic. So here we can use our user data instance, and we can get our Redis connection here. Then to work with SSL, we can use Nginx and Mruby class SSL. We have to create instance. Then we can get our certificate in private key from the Redis, for example here, again from the user data Redis connection. It's really easy. And if we have no sum certificates in the Redis, we can use default certificates, for example, just for fallback. And we can write some simple condition here. If we have certificate NK, we will change it using our Nginx SSL instance. That's really easy. Well, when we are ready with our scripts, we can just put it in our Nginx configuration file. So, for example, we have 4 workers, and we have to include our initial script to the mruby init worker directive, and then we can put our SSL script to our mruby SSL handshake handler directive, all of them under a cache keyword. And okay, it really worked. It is working in production around 1.5 years, and it was good. It's really good, but I found some issues and maybe misunderstanding from my side when I was working with that. The first, when you are using user data instance, it will be shared between your Mruby codes. But when we are talking about Nginx, well, Nginx has workers. And if you try to use a lot of workers and then you put some user data instance to mruby init directive, you will see you will see strange behavior in your production, maybe some locks or something like that, because your instance will be locked. And if you have a lot of workers, you have to use mruby init worker directive. The second problem, what happens if your Redis crash in the production? Well, probably you will see error in your Nginx logs that your connection errors happen, but have to fix that? Well, we can handle our exception from the Redis connection error, and then if Redis not available right now, we can store our certificates not only in the Redis store but in the file system, and we always fall back to the file system and its fault tolerance. And when our Redis ready to work, we have to overwrite our user data instance Redis, and we have to create new connections, and that's it. So, thank you for your attention.